Good evening, everyone. This talk is going to be in English. I hope that's not too big of a problem. And today I'll be talking about the importance of e-recycling. So to start off the talk, I'd like to ask everyone to take out their phone and turn on their flashlight. So raise it up like you're at a party, right? And look around for a second. Look at how many phones are in just this room here. And every phone means one camera, one light, one battery. Not to mention that many phones have two cameras, two batteries, hundreds of wires and circuits, and billions and trillions of lines of code, just in this room. You can put your phones down, thank you. Now consider that how many phones there are in the entire world, a grander scale. There's actually about 6.8 or 8.5 billion smartphones in the world today. And just last year, that number surpassed the entire human population. So there are more phones than humans in the world today. Now think, not just phones, but all kinds of electronics. So the television at your house, your toaster, your speaker, your computer, your phone, maybe your car. All of these different kinds of electronics. And consider that like every other product that you have, at some point, it's going to have to be discarded. Either you got the newer one, it broke, or the company has convinced you to buy the newer product. Once an electronic is considered obsolete, once it goes to waste, it's considered electronic waste. So anything that has a cable, goes into the wall, has a circuit, has a battery, and is thrown out, it's considered electronic waste. And electronic waste is the fastest type of is the fastest growing solid waste in the entire world. This graph by the United Nations shows just how fast e-waste has been growing over the years. From 2014 to 2019, e-waste grew from 44.4 million tons in 2014 to 53.6 million in 2019. That's an increase of 20% in just 5 years. On the left, on the right here, you can see how much e-waste there is per capita, so every person. So every child born, every elderly person, maybe that's 100 years old, doesn't even know what a phone is. In 2023, everyone is responsible for 8.2 kilograms. So, like I said, your newborn child maybe, your cousin. Everyone in this room is responsible for at least 8.2 kilograms. To put this in perspective, in 2023 alone, 61.3 million tons of electronic waste was created, just in 1 year. That's 61.3 million thousand kilograms, or about the same as throwing out 1,000 laptops every single second. So just like that, 1,000 laptops, 1,000 laptops, 1,000 more laptops every second for 1 year. This is the same, in a more conventional context, as 37.6 million Toyota Corollas. So maybe the car that you drove in here with, if you put 37 million of those in a line, you could go around the earth over 4 times. That's how much electronic waste there is by weight generated just in 1 year. And unfortunately, like I showed earlier, this number is only going to grow. And by 2030, we're going to have nearly 75 million metric tons created in just 1 year. But why are electronics growing at such a steady rate? Why are they growing at such a fast pace? There's many reasons for this, but one of the big contributors is companies making their products last a smaller amount of time. Companies will always try to make you buy the newer product, either by having newer hardware, newer software, or like I said, by artificially decreasing the lifespan of their products, so that the consumer has to buy the newer one. It can be seen with phones. It's a great example. Many companies are artificially decreasing the battery life of their phones so that the consumer is degraded, the consumer's experience is degraded, and thus they have to buy the newer model. They do this by implementing software that makes the battery last a smaller amount of time, even though the battery has the capability and the lifespan to last longer. They also do this by preventing newer software from coming to be implemented in older phones. So if you want the newer software, you have to get the newer phone. And this is called planned obsolescence. E-waste is also growing because society has adopted the fact that electronics are the future. Like Ms. Dunny pointed out, artificial intelligence is taking over. So all artificial intelligence has to be put in electronics. So that's going to grow. João Becker also showed in medicine how electronics are in medicine. But everything that we have today that is gas-powered, because of it's a greener initiative, right, if you have electronics, anything that's gas-powered is slowly becoming electric. And this can be seen with stoves, with cars, and even bicycles are now having batteries in them. Even something that you're supposed to exercise in, something that you're supposed to work out in, now has a battery in to make your life that much easier. But electronics do not just create waste. They also create a problem morally. You see, many people don't know this, but a lot of electronics have batteries. And most batteries are lithium-ion batteries. They're cheaper, they last longer, they're more reliable. And lithium-ion batteries can only be made with one component, and that's cobalt. Cobalt can only be found in one place in the entire world, or the vast majority of it. 90% of the world's reserves are in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Africa. Here you can see one of these mines. Hundreds of thousands of workers work countless hours every day to scrape the mountains, get a small bit of cobalt they will sell for pennies every single day. These companies will then take this cobalt, ship it off to China, and make billions of trillions of dollars in profit. This is a key example of modern slavery that simply goes untouched in the media. And I'd be willing to bet that most of you didn't even know this was happening. So electronics are creating an even bigger problem in society. But there's a solution to this. Why don't we use our own electronics today, or reuse them, the materials in them, and the materials in them, to make newer ones? And this is recycling. This is the solution that we have for all the problems that I just mentioned. E-waste, slavery, and all these different things. You see, electronics are incredibly valuable. The United Nations estimates that in a ton of electronics, that is 1,000 kilograms of electronics, there is 100 times more gold than there is in 1,000 kilograms of gold ore. So in 1,000 kilograms of old, broken electronics that you don't need anymore, there's more gold in that, 100 times more than 1,000 kilograms of gold rock. Let that sink in for a minute. When you throw out an electronic and it goes to a landfill, this is simply wasted. It has no use anymore. It's thrown out. And so with recycling, we lower the demand and hopefully eliminate the demand for virgin materials extracted directly from the source, which means we stop modern slavery and we decrease the carbon footprint of the product. You see, shipping cobalt to China and then around the world to be distributed has an incredible carbon footprint. And so by recycling, we also diminish that. Like I mentioned, when you throw out a phone incorrectly and it's not recycled, it ends up a lot of the time in a landfill, where hazardous materials like mercury and lead will spoil local ecosystems, polluting the soil and water streams, which kills local wildlife. It also prevents deforestation, because in the Congo is one of the richest, naturally rich countries in Africa. Most of Africa's largest rainforest is in the Congo, and these mines are deforesting a lot of that. Not only this, but landfills also occupy a huge amount of land, and so by recycling, you're stopping this deforestation from occurring. Further, there's a huge economic incentive. Like I mentioned, electronics are very, very valuable, but not valuable to the point of being more expensive than virgin metals. So, extracted cobalt from the source is more expensive than recycling a battery today. This means that producers can buy raw materials for much less, or recycled materials for much less, which means the price of the product is decreased, and so the consumer also has to pay a smaller price. This is a huge incentive for recycling companies to pop up, which means more jobs, and so the economy raises as a whole, since there's more businesses, more jobs, and more money flowing in the economy, because the producer pays less and the consumer pays less. So it's a benefit for the consumer, the producer, the economy, and of course the government, because we can't forget about that, right? Now, Legislators and companies know this, which is why recently in the EU, they started to standardize charging cables. You see, this might not have a direct, you might not think this has a direct effect with recycling and e-waste, but really, it does. It has everything to do with it. Because if you standardize a cable, it means every electronic, which is what they're doing in the EU, and now increasingly around the world, every electronic has to have only this one cable. So your speaker, your computer, your phone, all electronics you have can all be charged with just one cable. This means your life is made easier because you only have to carry one cable around, but crucially, you only have to buy and replace one cable every year in case it breaks, which decreases electronic waste. Experts say that this will decrease electronic waste by 11,000 tons every single year. And it has already started to make ripples in the electronics industry. Apple famously went from its lightning cable, which it used for a very long time from the iPhone 5 to the iPhone 14, now adopting with the newest iPhone 15, the USB-C cable, which is faster and is standardized. With increasingly more companies adopting this new cable and countries implementing these laws, the 11,000 tons that were initially estimated are going to rise, decreasing e-waste as a whole. Now, other countries like Brazil and many other countries have also adopted the logística reversa approach, or reverse logistics. With this approach, by law, every place that produces electronics, resells electronics, or distributes electronics have to have a way to properly recycle them wherever they sell it. So any supermarket, or gas station, or Panvel maybe, that sells batteries and electronics, they have to have a way to properly discard it. And it works like this. So first the producer makes it, they sell the product brand new, and the product breaks, right, or it has to be replaced for whatever reason, so they take it back to the distributor. And then the distributor sends it back to the factory or the recycler, where it's then back into the industry, and the cycle continues. The problem with this is that the producer, or the reseller, the distributor, has to pay for the shipping and sometimes recycling of these electronics, which means that many times supermarkets hide away where they recycle these materials and these batteries. So next time you go to a supermarket, I encourage you to ask one of the workers there, one of the employees, where you can recycle your batteries, because they have to have a place, right? So ask them. Many times in my experience, they won't know where it is. They say it's not there, because the companies hide it so well, because it's expensive to recycle. And so this is a huge problem. In my first year now, I've been working with electronics for 1 year, since I've started a project called Cycle, which recycles electronics. It was at the front, maybe you saw it. I started it last year, and the biggest problems that I found were two of them. The first is homes, where many people don't know where to throw out their trash in their house. You probably have a shelf full of electronics at your home, smartphones, wires, cables, headphones, keyboards, anything. But you don't know what to do with it. You know it's not right to just throw it out in the normal trash, but you don't know where to recycle it. Again, ties back to the problem that I was talking about earlier with the supermarkets. But also small businesses, dentist's office, a bakery that has a broken toaster, doctor's offices that have old electronics, routers, computers that they don't know where to throw out. A lot of waste simply goes unaccounted for there because it's not regulated. So, how can we make this better? Well, first of all, spread the word. Spread the word that recycling is so important. Tell people that e-waste is a big problem. If you find a proper recycler, tell your neighbor about it, tell your friends about it. This is the only way that recycling will become the norm. And the harder thing that I found in my journey, in my recycling journey, and specifically electronic waste recycling journey, is changing people's minds is not easy. So this is the second thing. We have to make people reduce, reuse, and recycle. But it can't just be something that the government tells you or that I tell you. It has to come from within. You have to do it because you want to do it. You have to find these places which are not easy to find, these recycling places, because you feel that you are morally bound to it. So, I like to end like this. Pioneers of tomorrow, because I know there are a lot of you in this room. A lot of young speakers, a lot of students, even the parents. You have a long life ahead of you, right? You can still change the future. So I'll ask you now, what will you do to make our planet safer and greener? Thank you.